Welcome to the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. Your guide on this journey is Amy Sylvis. If you're ready for the secrets to an abundant life, hit that subscribe button now, and let's get started.
Secrets to Abundant Living podcast community, it's Amy Sylvis. Welcome, welcome. For those who don't know me, I am the founder and principal of Sylvis Capital, and we connect investors to hands-off real estate investment opportunities in growing markets throughout the United States, mostly in commercial real estate like apartments and flex industrial space. Often these opportunities are only available to the ultra wealthy, but we make them accessible to more Americans. Wow, it's great to see you all. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we had a solo podcast, and there's a lot to update you on. So welcome to another solo episode. I am back in my home in Los Angeles. If you have been paying attention to the news, you've seen that unfortunately Los Angeles over the past couple of weeks has been going through quite a bit with these fires. I am in Pasadena, which is just south of Altadena, where one of the major fires, the Eaton fire, has been. And it's been brutal. I'll be quite candid. It's been a really tough couple of weeks. I'll start off by saying we are fine. Our home is fine. Both husband Joel and my parents are fine, thank goodness, and our family. No one lost a home, but we know countless individuals, including one of our very own podcast guests. If you remember Joseph Barkley, who sadly lost his home in the fire. Joseph and his wife, Katie, I call her Katie Bark, and their two amazing daughters are okay. Obviously, we've been checking in on them and trying to help as best we can, but growing up in this area and still living in this area, as you can imagine, it is, it's overwhelming to see the devastation. We've had earthquakes, we've had riots throughout my, 43 years living here, but this has been one of the top, just most heart-wrenching things. Air quality got very bad. So when the Eaton fire broke out on Tuesday, I lost track. Was it the 6th, I think? I headed out to Orange County. If you don't know California, this is about an hour and a half south of where we are in Los Angeles, and had to stay there for 6 nights to stay away from the bad air quality. So obviously incredibly grateful to have the resources and ability to leave and take care of my lungs, who you haven't been a part of the podcast for a while. I live with cystic fibrosis, which is a lung condition. And thankfully I'm on a miracle drug, which makes my lungs in really great shape. But I still have some damage from the 39 years when I wasn't on the medication. So it's really important that I avoid, things like smoke, like everybody. So being back at home, I'm very grateful, but it is not too far from our house where there are so many people who are displaced, who are without a home, who will be without a home for quite a long time. And then of course there's the Palisades fire, which is on the other end of town. I'm on the eastern part of Los Angeles County, and the Palisades is on the western part. Quite awful, quite devastating there as well. It's been a time. It's really made me reflect on, the privilege just to be able to be home with all of my belongings when people I care deeply about don't have that. It's quite a helpless feeling. And there's been a lot of discussion about, why this happened. And we're not going to get into that on this podcast, but suffice it to say, there were hurricane force winds, 80-mile-an-hour winds that, however the fire started, pretty pretty wild to have basically a hurricane blowing fire around. And some of the videos have been tough to watch. So having the privilege of being home, it's now, our turn to make sure we show up for those in need. And it has been quite incredible to see this community of transplants, which, LA, there are a lot of people from all over the world that move here and aren't necessarily from here. And some people do talk about kind of the lack of community in this city, but we've really seen it, at least here on the eastern part of Los Angeles County. I think it's happening on the west side as well, but just people coming together, offering resources, offering support. A guest who I'm hoping to have on the podcast one day, she's very busy, but she's got a clothing company and she's just an incredible woman. She's, donated clothes, and we know people who have just offered money and all sorts of support. So I just wanted to update you all on what's been going on over here. Quite a contrast, seeing all this after, such a joyous time. I'm a big Rose Parade and Rose Bowl game fan. And, this year had a great time partaking in that. And to see now that where just, a few days ago, we were watching Ohio State and Oregon play, and everyone was so happy. And the Rose Parade was going on with all these glorious floats. And now, the Rose Bowl is filled with firefighters from all over the country in tents, and FEMA and Red Cross and National Guard vehicles are at the Rose Bowl as the central command for the fire out here. It's such a difference a couple of weeks make. Yeah, quite a different story. So we will continue to serve and support and do whatever we can to help the people. This will fall from the news. It will. And people will move on with their lives, but we will continue to make sure we support the community in any way we can. And that really brings me to a topic, we have on this podcast a lot, which is this abundance mentality, or this abundance, this desire to have abundance. And what does that mean? Is it just money, or is money just one part of the equation? Is money just the vehicle to have location freedom and time freedom and financial abundance and the ability to have the relationships that we want to have and the impact? In these past couple of weeks really reminded me why having financial independence and all these other freedoms are so important, because I didn't have to think twice about picking up on a Tuesday evening and going to another city an hour and a half away and not knowing when I would return. I didn't have a job per se that I needed to take permission to take time off. I have hands-off income, that privilege that I've worked really hard to build intentionally for its benefits, but also in times like this, really, really helpful to have. And it's not just about that money, right? It's about that time freedom, that geographical freedom of, hey, I'm going here, whether it's for pleasure, for travel, or for business, or for safety, not being tied to a certain geography is a big deal, especially in times of crisis. Just one less thing I had to worry about. I had to, pack up all my medical equipment. I've got quite a bit of it, and all my medications, and that weighs me down, and that's something to think about. But I still didn't have to, in addition to that, think about, got to talk to my employer. I've got to see if I can have time off. And oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to come into the office. None of that came to mind. I just was able to leave. And I had that geographical freedom and that time freedom to make the decision that was best for me. And I had the financial ability, right? Because I have income that comes in, whether I'm working or not, whether I'm showing up to a place, to a job. What a blessing. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm not saying this for any other reason other than to just reflect on, as we approach 1 year very soon for this podcast, why it's so important to talk about these abundance topics that sadly aren't discussed very often at, school or culture. Yes, I had the money to pay for the hotel, but a lot of people have the money, but didn't have the time or had to get time off or need to be in a certain place to earn the money. And then I think about the overflow, that my cup is so full that there's excess. So when a friend has a GoFundMe because they lost everything, or this is going to sound very privileged, my house cleaners, people who I've worked with through COVID, and I've known, because of my lungs, anything that stirs up dust or I have to use chemicals to properly clean, I can't do. So it's something I've always budgeted for. They lost everything. They lost everything. They lost their cleaning vans. The ladies that work for them lost their houses in Altadena. The owner of the company lost their house. I want to be able to financially support them through this to get them up and running. I know what it's like to run a business. I have the overflow. I have the abundance to not only take care of my needs, but the needs of my community, of my friends, of my family, of people who are, that need support. That's that freedom of impact. So we have financial freedom. We have geographic freedom. We have time freedom to do what we want. We have the freedom of impact where we can choose to give to others instead of holding on to our resources, our money tightly. We can be free to allocate those resources where they're most needed. The freedom of association to be around and serving the people that need us. I was driving around Altadena with my mom yesterday. We were donating a few things, and we saw 3 different tents just randomly on the street that said that we're offering prayer. And, if you're not religious, that's fine. It's not a comment about that, but it is that freedom of association of, I can give my time, one of my most precious resources, to people that need it. I would love to have done that. The air still isn't, safe for me to just be hanging out outside for hours and hours at a time. But that freedom of association and relationship where you can really pour into people with your presence, and money that is hands off, that comes to you no matter what, can be helpful in all of these different 5 freedoms. It is the financial freedom, the geographic freedom, the time freedom, the freedom of impact, and the freedom of association or relationships. Just so important. And some of those don't cost any money. Some of them we don't need hands-off income to get to, but some of them, having money we don't have to work for that comes in passively, can really facilitate those. And as you know, I started this journey because I was in and out of the hospital living with cystic fibrosis, a genetic illness I did not ask for. I was simply born with. My parents are silent carriers, and they passed it on to me. And I was having trouble trading my time for money as a person in her 20s and 30s dealing with this illness. It's really hard to hold down a job and be good at it when you're in and out of the hospital for 2 to 3 weeks a year, several times a year. So I wanted money, to come in, whether I was healthy or not, whether I was in the hospital or not. And that's what started this journey for me. Natural disasters wasn't really on my radar. And thank God I wasn't impacted as much as others, but it really did underline why I want this for everybody who wants it. Why we spend, I spend time, I spend money, I spend effort on recording these podcasts and bringing in guests and, having folks edit and post and all of that. I really do think for those who are interested, we want this podcast to be inspirational and encouraging along that journey, because while it does not happen overnight, it is not a quick thing. with methodical and inspired action, it definitely can happen. I wish I had more words, but very candidly, it's been pretty tough to focus over the past couple of weeks. And as I was thinking about what to record for this podcast, it just felt right to give you all an update and let you know what's been ruminating. I'm so blessed and grateful to have a roof over my head and to have air that is clean to breathe and to have the ability, whether it's time or geography or money, to be able to show up for people in need in my community. It's really important to me. So we will be back in the coming weeks with more great guests and more great solo episodes on the topic of financial independence. But we also want to be really real about what's going on. And in the planning of this just felt like the right thing to do. So a little bit of a different tone this week, but I hope you all are off to an amazing 2025. Even within the darkness and the sadness, we are finding ways to come together, to find love, to find joy, to find peace, and to find community. So hopefully things are great with you. I pray that they are. And I also pray that you find the wonderful and amazing things no matter what circumstance you are. Not for, toxic positivity's sake, but simply because they're there. They just are. You don't have to make them up. These things exist even when times are tough, and we're finding them. I'm finding them. LA is finding them, and we encourage you to do the same. Thank you so much. If you like this episode, please give us a rating wherever you are watching. And we can't wait to bring you more amazing content here in 2025 as we get close to celebrating 1 year of the podcast. Let's go. All right, everyone. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon, and bye for now. If you would like to support the people who are in need in Los Angeles, we've included several links in the show description for you to support. Some are just general funds. Some are GoFundMe for some people that I know personally who are struggling. So anything you can provide, we would be incredibly grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that will empower you on your journey towards abundance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us, and it helps others discover the secrets to an abundant life too. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn, Amy Sylvis. Keep striving for your goals, nurturing your relationships, and embracing the adventure that is life. Until next time, we wish you an abundantly fulfilling day.